Okay, I officially declare space boring. Can we please talk to somebody new?
Initiating guest scan. Conscious frequency detected. Vessel 42 has entered the orbit. Name, Andrew. Alias, conscious bedtime storyteller. Known for tucking egos in while waking souls up. Primary function, delivering multidimensional bedtime stories encoded with wisdom, warmth, and wonder. Emotional field, grounded, gentle, galactic. Frequency, 11.11 Hz. Dreamlink stabilized. Narrative engine, fully activated. Mission purpose, reconnect humanity with inner magic. One story at a time. Vibe scan, past. Welcome aboard, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew. I'm Captain LA of the Ethereal Voyager. Nice to meet you
Captain
in the
LA,
stars.
pleased to meet you. Yep.
Yes, awesome. And so, whenever I meet a new traveler, I like to play a little game. And so, it's a spin of a wheel, cosmic wheel of wisdom, and whatever it lands on, you get to answer the question.
Spin the wheel.
All right, let's do it. The cosmic wheel of wisdom. How has the moon influenced your life or rituals?
What a fantastic question. The moon, what a beautiful planet that we have to gaze on, this moon and the cycles that it takes us through. I pay quite a lot of attention to my creative energy and how it matches the season of the moon. And I know that when the moon is moving towards the full moon, it's when my creative energy is building. And that at the full moon, I really do want to be at a full moon party. I think it's a great time for a fire, for a drum circle, for a dance at the local nightclub. I don't mind it, but it's just somehow my energy is up and it seems that everybody else is up too. So we might as well use it to have a really good time. And then I also like to be a little bit more inwards and reclusive as that new moon energy comes in. And I notice it just happens. So whether I want to be like that or not doesn't actually matter, but I don't like fighting against the cycles of the moon and what that planet is doing to my personal energy. I'd rather align with it. And hey, life is better with a quiet period and a party period.
You're absolutely right, and you're right about the moon cycles. Like, I only recently, over the past few years, started actually studying the moon cycles, but I always noticed that around a certain time, like you said, the full moon is where I feel really invigorated and really creative. And then when it's transitioning into its waning stages is when I start to die down and start to go inward and things
Mm.
like that. And I did actually do like a moon ritual like it was at a park and we had the like bonfire going and the music on and the moon was up and we were just like dancing, and that was like one of the funnest experiences that I've had to actually kind of like let my inner wolf out, if you will. It was, yeah, it was really totally so fun. And just to be around people who actually didn't look at me weird, like, oh, you want to dance around the moon? I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
So,
I learned from a social anthropologist back in South Africa who was talking to us about the tribal folks in on the African continent, actually the whole world, really, if you just go back a couple of hundred years, and how deeply influential this moon cycle was, and how every village. Just imagine this for a moment: that every village on the entire planet at the full moon was partying,
mm,
and that every woman on the planet had their cycle aligned, and that the ovulation happened at the full moon and that the party was happening at the same time. So you all know what we were all doing that night, everywhere on the planet, right? Because intuitively we were just plugged into these rhythms, and that's just how it was.
absolutely love that. And you're right. And I think it's so beautiful now. People have so many theories about the moon, hollow moon. Is it a satellite that's having all these extra things going on? But the one thing I know is that I definitely feel it in the shifts in my body, especially being a woman. You feel more emotional around that time, so I can usually
Mm,
tell when it's about to be a full moon. I'm like, oh,
mm, mm.
I've, why am I crying at the show? Like, oh, it's a full moon.
Helpful to know, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. And so I want to ask you, how has connecting with your inner child inspired your creativity?
Well, as you can see, this wall of kids' books behind me that I write, I love that I get to spend so much time connected to my inner child. I feel like it's this sweet, tender place inside of me that is still so innocent, so vibrant, so playful. I'm like, I just want to come on, let's go do a thing, and to have not only permission but actually purpose tied into being connected to this young vulnerable part of me. To me, I think it's a privilege. It lets me bring it in. I could never have been in a corporate job where perhaps a lid would be put onto this type of energy and inspiration. I feel that my stories, I still really view the world through the eyes of a child. And that is not only my inner child, but then also the way that in my healing work and in my studies around developmental psychology with grown-ups, we've all been there in our training spaces, but we're reflecting back on these young times in our lives. And so I get to borrow their inner child and the view of
Mm.
what they've seen and how they wish their world had been. And a lot of my creativity is informed on how my inner child wished my world had been. And I'd wished certainly for more connection as a young child. And that I want to create connection and help other people create connection, which is what my stories are here to do.
Love that. And unlike you, I am very connected to my inner child, if you will. And one of the things I've recently gotten into, which I always laugh about, especially when I tell people because they just look at me kind of odd, but I've gotten into bedtime stories. Uh, it's for adults, everyone out there. It really is for adults, but it's a channel that I enjoy called Midnight Sleep, and
Mhm.
he creates these bedtime stories based off of different things. So, say a Star Wars bedtime story, or The Witcher, or any little thing, and it really makes me feel like a child again, and it's just such a nice feeling. I know like a lot of us don't want to admit, but we all like to have that feeling of being safe and comforted and having someone read to us. It's really
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely. Who doesn't want a spaceship, right? And a bedtime story. I mean, let's be connected with our inner child. I was watching last night Resident Alien on
Oh
Netflix, and
yeah,
there
I
was
love
this
that.
scene where two of the characters climbed into bed together and their old childhood bed, and they looked up at the ceiling and they had those luminous fluorescent stars stuck to the ceiling. And it just took me back I remember climbing onto my bed to put those things up there, right? And like, who didn't have those kind of glow in the dark stars that you could look at? And that's exactly putting together those worlds of nighttime, bedtime, inner child, all of that. I'm like, my
Yeah,
life, love that.
yeah, and I think it's very important, right, for us to learn to connect with that again, to have fun. Life is so serious. There's so much going on, and just really finding the time to just play will it shifts the energy within us. It just makes us so much more happy. It makes us more creative. It makes us want to go out and do the things that we have to do.
Mhm.
Just spending those moments of just pure joy and play without having to think about anything other than what's going on right here in the present moment.
Mm. Do you have a
So
favorite way that you play?
I do. I do. So I really love music. And so when there's a lot going on for me, I just like to take a moment, put on some music, and just dance and just
Mm.
sing and just, be as silly as I want to. And it feels amazing. It's like a release for me. But
Mhm.
that's my favorite way to play essentially. How about you?
Yeah, dance is one of my key ways of doing it. I don't do it at home by myself much, but I will make sure that once a week I'm in a class for ecstatic or five rhythms or one of these other forms that um, in a community somebody else curates, and it's so liberating and so like embodying, but accidentally embodying. I mean, you don't even have to think about it; it just happens because you're dancing.
Right, exactly. And so what do you think, like, the connection between storytelling and healing and self discovery is?
Hmm. Well, I mean, storytelling is an interesting word in its own right because as humans, we are storytellers. We go back to that those tribes sitting around the bonfire on the full moon. They would be telling stories, the as a way to pass along wisdom and insight from generation to generation. The big mythological stories would be told, and so in a certain way, those are informing you how to keep safe. They're informing you the history of your tribe, your people, uh, and and they will tell you what went wrong and how the villagers of back then got past what it was that the challenges were that they faced, and in that you then weave in this medicine for the next generation. And uh, when we translate that into storytelling, like parent and child alongside each other, at the end of the day, a good book will do those same things. It'll bring you into a world where the characters in that world are relatable and uh, maybe lovable, maybe not, but through the adventure that the characters go on, we'll get to see ourselves as going, oh, hey, hold on. Um, when that, like, the book behind me, The Hug Who Got Stuck, when the hug coming out of the hug factory in the middle of the heart got stuck in the web of sticky thoughts and the whole world got gloomy, I'm like, oh, I know that moment. I
Mm,
know that moment, and you don't have you can be five. You know exactly what that moment is, um, and when you read the story a little bit further, and the hug gets free because it remembers the what it says on the sign, which is lessons to being a great hug, and breathe in love and glow brightly. Focus entirely on the heart the love is for, and do not pay too much attention to the web of sticky thoughts.
mm,
Now we the hug and the story gets free. You feel its victory, you feel great, and at the same time, you, even the 5-year-olds on board the lesson that's built into the story, so that next time they've got a stuck hug and they're feeling down and their world's gotten gloomy, they've got some access to a toolbox of what they can pull out. And so in a certain way, it's preventative healing, that we're actually giving the remedy to a problem that the child may not have faced yet, uh, and but they're going to. This is a human experience. Um, the boy who searched for silence. We're all going to go looking for silence. We might look out in the world
mm,
and we're not going to find it. We're going to find it inside ourselves, like the boy does in the story, right? And in another way, what I see and hear from parents is oh, I wish I had this story when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so there's something in the intergenerational part where the parent picks up a book, they read it with their little one, that they get the medicine they didn't get when
Yes.
they needed it as a kid. And hey, we can heal any age of injury at any stage of life. Any age of, I've never said that, I quite like how I said that. We can
Yes.
heal
Yeah.
we can heal any age of injury at any stage of life. And so it might be that you're 65 when you get a glimpse of a healing piece from an injury that happened when you were 5 years old. That's
That
okay, we'll
that
take it when we get it.
that was beautifully put. And you're so right. Like, I wish that I had this when I was younger. Instead, I had my book of Bible stories, which is great, but a lot of the stories in there were like, obey or be destroyed. I was raised Jehovah's
Ouch.
Witness, so yeah, it was pretty
Yeah.
tough. Yeah, so I was like, oh. But I definitely would have loved to have something like this. But you're right. I mean, there is this now, and this is your purpose, and you have these books, and even though I'm 37 years old, I could still get something out of that. Like I said, I listen to my bedtime stories. So I'm not above it. But I think that that's beautiful for these younger generations to have something like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and let's talk about, you asked about the healing of storytelling. One of the big components about that is the togetherness that happens during
Mhm.
story time, right? So we again, whether you're by the fire or whether you curled up under the comforter, um, there is a way that we come alongside each other, and it changes the rank. Usually, as a parent, you're face to face with your child, and you're saying, "Brush your teeth, put on your pajamas," and you're taller than them, and they're down here, and then you've got this big rank differential. When you come into the story time, that differential disappears. You're side by side, which changes the posture. Your body's touch, which allows attunement and regulation of breath. And then, of course, I exaggerate that by putting the snuggle breathing meditation into the front of the books. So you're going to breathe 4 times together
Mm.
because the book tells you to do it. Um, and as you do that, attunement is happening. And attunement is this, it's the ground of safety that every child needs, in order to know that they can thrive, and in order to uh, not spend all of their energy building defensive strategies. They When you get attunement, your system relaxes. You know you're safe. You know you belong. You know you're welcome. You know you're wanted. All of that gets conveyed in the storytelling moment, just because you're doing something together in this way. Uh, and 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 when you look at what therapists are doing in the world now, we're somatic therapy, we're using massage, we're using all of those aspects of attunement. We're trying to create for adults to have at a deep enough level that their system goes back to being safe, in a way that they should have learned. Again, we're back at that injury stage, but they didn't get it. Then we have to model it in a way that can hold it. And the healers know this. Yeah, this is the way that we heal.
Mm. Yeah, that is so powerful. And so, how do you think adults can learn to reconnect with the true essence of that inner child, through creativity? How do you think creativity helps that?
So the act of creative expression is like tapping into a wellspring. And by creative expression, I mean writing a poem. I mean sitting down at a piano, particularly if you don't play piano, right? So imagine that there you are. You've never played a piano, you've never taken a lesson, but there's a keyboard there, and you get to sit down, and you sit down and you start to do this thing where a finger plays with a note, and you listen and you hear. Now you've come into a moment of life that is totally, utterly sparkling, brand spanking new, right? It's never happened before, and that what that does the energy body in our system is it brings a little spark of our essence into our system. Now, I think of that spark like you think of a stem cell. And the medical folk will say, a stem cell can be anything in the body. It comes in, it comes and it hasn't yet got an instruction as to what it's going to become, and then it gets the instruction, and so it can then go in, and this is why it's so potent in healing for the body. The creative spark's exactly like that. You get an impulse that arises in you, and it can become anything. Now it's going to meet with your psychological belief systems that got set up in your childhood, but before it meets, it's got all of the potential in the world, and you get to choose how you want to steer it. And one of the little things that I have folks do time and time again in workshops is to write a 7-minute poem with the word spark in it. And there's something about the time limit, there's something about the invitation to write, and there's something about the word spark. Those poems are breathtaking in the way that they are self-revealing, right? So you don't have to think about it. You just sit down and do the thing, and then sit back and look at what you wrote, and it's like a prophetic message to self of your circumstance is what comes out onto the page. And then so we often have a moment in the workshops where folks are, the tissue box comes out, because it's like, oh my goodness, look at what I wrote.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it's a Shakespearean quality sonnet. It really doesn't. It just the smallest thing can come out and go, oh wow.
And that's absolutely why I love writing. That's my main medium, art form of choice. And one of my favorite things to do every day is just open up my notebook. Don't think about anything. Just take my pen, put it to the pad. Whatever happens, happens. And then at the end, I read it and I'm like, yeah, this is literally like a channeled message for me today. Because I'm not thinking in that moment, because I can't even keep up with my hand. It'll just go. And so by the end of it, and I just always am like, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. I just love the feeling of removing myself from the experience and letting something happen and to see what comes out on the other end. But yeah, that's like one of the ways I love to channel.
Yes, I mean, channel's a great word. The book that I'm in the process of end stage working with a publisher on is called Follow Your Spark, Not Your Trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to decide whether it was follow your spark or steer your spark, because I do think both apply. That there's a moment where actually we can nudge this in the direction we want it to go, and at the same time, there's this emergent thing that you're talking about. Like you have no idea what you're going to write.
Right.
It's like you might, and when I write a poem, all I get is the first word, and as I'm writing it, the second word appears. There's a third word. It's not like there's a fully formed poem that I can see here. I like, where do poems come from?
Right.
And then or morning pages, and it's just this act as you get into the writing, you don't know what you're going to write. So I like to think of creativity as I use the word revelatory. It's revealing. It's self-revealing.
Yes.
Self to self. It's how you get to know who you are, is by seeing what you wrote. And I go, I'm like, sometimes I'm reading this. I mean, this book is now at something like 600 pages, and I go back and look at it and go, who wrote that?
Right.
Like, Do I think that? That's good. Oh my goodness, that's good.
Attention, overfunctional starbeings. Has your inner child been trapped in a vortex of adult responsibilities in existential dread? The Intergalactic Council's Department of Cosmic Playfulness invites you to join the Galactic Inner Child Reclamation Program, a multi-dimensional healing journey back to joy, creativity, and bedtime stories that actually matter. Featuring conscious bedtime stories and microdose transmissions of galactic giggles, this program is designed to reconnect you with the magic of your pre-matrix self. Participants will receive a quantum spark activation device, also known as a crayon. Use with caution. Side effects may include spontaneous creativity, laughter, and the uncontrollable urge to pillow fort. The Galactic Inner Child Reclamation Program, because you weren't supposed to take life this seriously.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. It is like, especially when I wrote my first book, it was poems and short stories. And when I actually went back and read the short stories, I was like, I can't even, like, if I tried to sit here and say to myself, I'm going to write a short story and this is going to be the concept, I would have never thought of the concept of these stories. Like, I'm like, literally, where did this come from? I don't have a recollection of writing it when I was writing it. But two, it was so beyond me. I'm like, I feel like this came from me, obviously, but it came from something more. Um, but yeah, that's the beauty of writing. Uh, like you said, revealing. It reveals so much about ourselves. It reveals what we're capable of, how far our imagination can go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and so I love it. Um, so
You've got to
yeah,
look outside your starship window to see where it comes from.
right, exactly. That's exactly right. There's no other way, and that's why I chose the word channel, because it just literally was like a download. It, and I was just the median, pretty much. And I think it's the same for you. And it's like you were placed here at this time to really help bring that connection of parent and child to a place where, like you said, they're on the same level and can be attuned together. And not only is it helping the child navigate life, but as you said, is helping the parent heal some things in themselves that they probably didn't think they were going to get into when they read the book. And then probably at the end, they're like, oh my, and I think that it would make it more exciting for them. And so just through that, you're creating unforgettable memories and healing. I love that.
Memories.
Yes. So how do you think your upbringing has shaped your perspective on connection and healing?
Did you say on connection and healing?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm a kid of the apartheid generation in South Africa. I'm the I'm the white privileged guy. I grew up in a home that had everything. It would appear it had everything that a kid could want, uh, and and yet we all have parents, and they're all missing something, um, and and so part of my upbringing was being in a home without emotional language and physical affection, and at the same time being in a social environment that was physically hostile, and that's nothing to do with apartheid. That's to do with 600 boys in a in a school, right? And being the sensitive, slightly awkward, we didn't yet know about ADHD, but can tick that
Oh,
box with both hands. That guy who's then trying to work out, frankly, how to survive, uh, and and I I certainly learned how to create connection with a good bunch of guys in a sea of um, I mean, feral is a good word. we're, we're, we're feral, um, and all of that is that social context, the societal context, the family context. It can't not influence me, right? It in fact it influences me so deeply beneath the surface that I don't know how it influences me. And and you're talking to a guy who's done 20 years of self-inquiry. So I've scraped the top of the iceberg to look at hey, how is this? What has this done? Like what like did I for the longest time I didn't think men were safe, right?
mm,
If you met 30-year-old me, I had I had 80% of my friendship base was women and 20% men, and then I did my healing work around men, and that shifted that. I was like, oh, okay. I got involved in an organization called the Mankind Project, and it was deeply meaningful to have a complete rewrite of my my scripting about the safety of men. I mean, for the first 30 years, I didn't recognize my own creativity. Nobody else recognized it. How was I supposed to recognize it? And then in the right healing school environment, it got seen and recognized, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, I'm a creative man, and so you start the undoing of the scripts that were running like an old program that you don't even know is going in the background.
mm,
Um, so I continue to look for those in the shadows. They're slippery things. They don't always. Other people can usually see them better for me than I can see them for myself. But I have to be open to feedback now. For the longest time, that wasn't an
yeah.
option. How am I going to be open to feedback? Everybody's attacking me. This is my lived experience, and I mean, truly, nobody ever did that thing where you just sit you down on a sofa and go, hey, let me see if I can help you work out how to navigate this moment better, because the way that you did it didn't go so well, and there's some other ways that you can do it. Would you like me to make some suggestions?
Wouldn't that be
Right?
nice, right?
Wouldn't that be nice? Right? Wouldn't that be nice? And it's like, I mean, no, we're just in the deep end, learning how to swim in a sea of sharks, and and then again, it took later. It's like later I realized, oh, actually, that feedback is nourishment and medicine and important, and I don't need to defend against it. I can take it in it, and I don't need to lose myself to it. I can discern whether or not the person says is valid to my experience, and then I can make some adjustments about how I show up.
Mm,
So, but all of it's a lot of undoing. I mean, I think I don't know
yes.
if it was Ram Dass who said that we're all just walking each other home, um, making it
Yeah,
up as we go along.
I think that is adulthood, undoing everything that we learned. And one thing you said that I think is very powerful is being safe around men. I have nephews, and the one thing is that they don't feel safe around in the energy of men, right? Because they're
Mm,
told to be this certain way, uh, especially. in life, and they're teenage boys, so they're like, this is how you be a man, don't show any feelings and everything like that. So I love like talking to them and like, so how do you feel? Like I want you to express yourself like openly and honestly as possible, and I try to tell them like, you know, that the most powerful thing you can do is be vulnerable, and that there are multiple ways to be a man. There is no one way, right?
Mm.
And I can only do what I can do because I'm not a man. I can't show them the way, but I just believe in giving safe spaces to men. Like I love that because my father was a very he operated in his feminine energy as far as being very emotionally available. And
Mm.
so I tend to want to pass that on to my nephews to let them know that it's okay, because my father is no longer with us, so they don't have that example. But I saw him as like the strongest man ever, because
Mm.
how much courage does it take to be able to like just cry and show your emotions and
Mm.
express love? And it was a very interesting dynamic because, like I said, my father operated in the feminine energy, and my mother operated in the masculine energy. So she was
Mm.
the no hugs, don't cry, type of energy.
Mm.
And I just think it's beautiful for men to be emotionally intelligent, and I'm
Mm.
doing my best as much as I can to help my nephews see that. But something that has come up more is not feeling safe in in environments with men, because they
Mm.
feel like they can't be themselves. So
Mm.
I just thought that was really a powerful thing for you to say. Um, it's something that I'm just seeing with them, and so yeah, right on. I love that.
And we need, our boys need their uncles,
Yes.
like many uncles. Um, and I think the book was by Steve Biddulph. He's an author who wrote a book called Manhood or Raising Boys, and he the first time I got this notion that when your kids are 8 through 10, 8 through 11, you need to be positioning the uncles,
Mm,
because they are going to hit teenagehood and they are going to push you away, and they need to have this 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 range of masculine men around them, where you can go
yes.
like, oh, here is this guy's the softer sensitive, this is the stern one, and we want to be able to taste all the flavors. um, and I mean, I know that I'm only one example of how to be a man, and
Yes.
in the men's work that we did, when I went through that first weekend experience, there were 32 men on the workshop, and there were 55 men staffing it. So there was every type of man in that space. And it was terrifying. Don't get me wrong; it reminded me of all the things from school. But I needed to re-experience that terror, beheld and experienced something different about it, realized that they weren't there to attack me, but they were there to love and support me, but also to challenge me, and that started to make the shift. And I know that there's incredible work being done with youth, with men. There's this very interesting developmental thing that happens. I don't know that it happened back in the old village. You can tell how much I love that. But the 90% of kindergarten and elementary school teachers are female,
Yes. Mm,
right? So that means the first 10 years of your life as a boy, you're being told what to do
mm,
by women,
mm.
right? So that's got that's got ground for things going really well or really badly. you know, you can come out with tremendous resentment from that experience the kind of the rapprochement phase, as you develop and leave that the safety that was, if it was safety, and then you're out in the world as a teenager and you don't have the safety anymore. Now you've got to make sense of that, or you can go, it didn't give you safety, and so you leave, and there's a resentment because you had to persevere with it for so long before you could stand on your own. So I mean, this is some of the deep waters that are influencing our societies and our cultures, and they're not necessarily solvable so much as more philosophical awarenesses.
Exactly right. So, if you had to describe your creative energy as a color or sound, what would it be?
For me, it's golden.
Mm.
It's. I also look. I come from a family of jewelers in South Africa. I was a fourth generation jeweler when I was born into. So my relationship with gold was very deep inside of me, and I've watched I've watched a bar of gold be turned into a ring or an item of jewelry, and how it can be molten and shaped and hammered and textured, and there's a lot in that. So I love the question. Nobody's asked me that before, but it's just clear for me immediately that it is the liquid aspect of gold that I can really see as being part of my creativity, and then it takes form, which is so nice. It becomes solid, and it becomes a thing, and that's exactly what creativity does. Is it comes from this spark of nothing, it flows along this dreamy river of inspiration and ideas and imagination, and then our hands come to work and we make something, and it takes form. So yeah, that's my final answer. Gold.
Yes, and that's so crazy. As you were explaining that and saying that, I saw the image in my head of Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, as he's making the ring, and yeah, that I just seen that so clearly as you were talking, and I'm like picturing your creativity being formed into this beautiful ring of power. I love that.
Mm.
So, what do you think the link is between creativity and manifestation?
I'm not sure if they're different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they're different. I think they can be spoken about. Um, my well, let's see if we can define manifestation in some way, and then we can compare it,
Yeah.
because we've spoken a lot about creativity. But one of the energetic model that I trained in, that I view the world through, I trained with a physicist called Barbara Brennan, who turned into this phenomenal healer. And what I'd say about the physical form is that it's the last thing to happen in the journey of manifestation. So way out on the periphery of the galaxy that you're surfing around, there's the unmanifest, and the unmanifest has an impulse, which is like the creative spark, and it then has an intent to manifest in a certain way. The intent to create a book, just for simplicity, it starts as this idea. It's drifting around, but it has to cascade down these layers of density to manifest into physical form, into reality, so that I can pick this up and I can show you that. And manifestation is doing that all the time. We're like idea, step, reality, not reality as in here it is. And creativity is doing exactly the same thing. We're like, there is, as we've spoken, there's ways that you can steer the spark, you can follow the spark, it is the thing that is happening in the manifestation process, and we have to run it through all of these energetic aspects of ourself. It's like um, this is a chakra system model, but it's like we all have a spiritual self. We have an intuitive knowing. We've got a voice. We're like this becomes my voice. Look here, I'm showing you the thing. I've expressed it into the world. My heart came online and pumped fuel for my hands to stay alive and work, right? My mind down in my third chakra has been like, oh, how does this fit on the page? How does that fit on the page, right? My unique sort of like sensual energy is here. This is my idea. This is mine. So I'm gonna run an idea through whatever the center of me is. It's there are so many people miss that part because they come along. When people come to me and say, "Hey, Andrew, I've got a great idea for a book. You should write it." What? What they're missing that opportunity to run this life current through themselves in this particular way that lets their me gets to come into the world, into form as this thing, and be grounded in the base and the reality of it. And so manifestation is just looping that all the time. I mean, we can scale that out onto a how long have humans been alive question, and that same process. We can bring it down to what are you making for lunch today. You're manifesting a sandwich is what you're doing. You're imagining the sandwich, you're tasting it, you're dreaming of it, you're opening the fridge, you're exploring the possibilities, you're cutting the bread, you're putting the stuff together, you bring it down, it becomes your sandwich, and congratulations, you've manifested a sandwich.
I think that was like the most perfect way to put it for a lot of people, because some people feel like it's this concept that's too large to grasp, but you literally just laid it out perfectly. Like a sandwich, you're like, I want a sandwich, I go and I do the thing to make the sandwich, right? And now you have a sandwich. That was so perfectly put.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so one has to take into account, so in the middle of that, let's keep with the sandwich, the knife is blunt and the bread is hard, and there's a moment in the middle of trying to make this sandwich, which is so easy. Everybody knows how to make a sandwich, right? And then there's this moment where you're like, and your frustration comes out, and maybe there's some resentment towards this blunt knife, or this well, I should have bought the bread that was pre-cut, whatever it is. This is what we have to expect in the creative process as well. It's like and the manifestation process, if we're saying is the same thing, it's like we need a willingness to wrestle. Or Brené Brown would talk about rumbling with her team. There's a moment where you got to rumble. Hold on. Like it's manifestation is not the click of the finger and everything just happens. And I don't want, so people project onto me a lot, right? It's like, oh my goodness, Andrew, you've written 24 books, that's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, you all didn't see what it took, right? And it's like, oh, and they're doing so great in the world. I'm like, yes, and it is the deepest wrestle of my life, this business, and it's perpetual and it's ongoing. There's it's not the only thing, but it's always there. And I get to know myself far more fully and far more deeply because the angels didn't click their fingers and just give this to me.
Yes. I think
as much as I would have loved them to.
Right, but it's the journey, right? It's all the things that we learn along the way that help us create these things. And also, like you said, like many people see the outcome but not everything it took to get there.
mm,
It's like it takes a lot sometimes, and it's great, and we love that you can appreciate the outcome of it all. But it really, especially when you're highly creative, um, I know for me, when I'm in the process of creating something, well, one thing I'm still trying to work on is like once I tap into my creative energy, it is hard because then I become flooded with a lot of creative ideas. And so then it's
and
like,
now what?
well, yeah, it's like I gotta try to stay focused. But the more I, work on the creativity, the more the ideas come, and it gets to the
Mm,
point
mm,
sometimes where I'm like, please, just stop, just turn it off. I just want to work on with what I have right in front of me in the moment. but
mm.
but also I try not to take it for granted, because it's amazing to be able to have all of these ideas come, but it can be overwhelming, um extremely overwhelming.
Yeah,
I had to
yeah, I get
learn
it.
to focus.
There's this known correlation between the ADHD brain and creativity,
Mm,
and you're describing a moment that you don't have to have an ADHD brain to have that moment that you're talking about. It's like I started doing a thing, and it's like the champagne cork just got launched and the bottle's been shook, and here comes the next. Oh, what about it? We could do this, we could do that, we could do the other, and then we have this challenge of discernment,
mhm.
and we have a challenge of speed as well, because ideas are very, very fast,
Yes.
right? Think about them like a dream. If I say to you, okay, think of a polar bear, right? Now we've got it. Now give her some red shoes. Oh, put her in the jungle. Okay, oh, no, change the shoes to green. Okay, now it's done just like that, right? The moment our hands have to create something,
Yes.
reality, this idea slows down as its form becomes denser, and then all of a sudden you've got this dissonance, because here you are working on your one idea, which has gotten really slow, and inside is this cacophony of noise coming from all of these bubbly ideas that are still in their super fast state and can be whatever they want to be. And they're like,
Right.
oh, we can do this, we can do that, let's go, we can do this, we can do that. And you're like, and so it gets compelling to put the slow thing down and to turn around and go, oh, I'll get another one of those. That feels much more enlivening to me. Um, and then the moment you pick that one up and you move it into the world, it slows down, and you're like, oh, well, dang.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. That's exactly how it is. But yeah, I had to learn to just stick with it, focus on the one idea, don't get
Yeah.
distracted by all of these things. And, sometimes in the beginning it was hard, because what they say is like, once you have an idea, now it's it's out into the ethers in the universe, and now everyone can pull from this idea. So now it's not just yours. It's up for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to be like, oh, okay, well, anyone can do this. So now I gotta like really try to do it first, And I've gotten to a point where unless the idea is consistent in my mind, I don't hold on to it. If it comes and it leaves, then it wasn't for
Mm-hmm.
me, but that was a nice thought. you
Mm-hmm.
know but if it's consistently there, then that's what I need to focus on, and that has
Yeah.
helped me kind of stay consistent.
Yeah, and we have to choose. I mean, we're influenced by so many things. So, for example, I've got a wonderful eco village spiritual community in the north of Scotland. I go and spend time in. The moment I'm there, all of my ideas revolve around how to help that community, right? And it's a lifetime's work just to do that. And then so but when I'm here and I'm sitting in my office on the other side of the world with my books, I apply my ideas to the business of my books, to my creative writing, to my thinking. It's like, oh, that's great. There's actually less. outside noise evoking points of focus. I mean, everybody wants to be brilliant. Do you ever see it's like you ask someone an opinion, they've always got one. Like
Yeah.
nobody's ever not got an opinion. What do you think of this? What do you think we should do here? How do you think this would be better? Oh, let me tell you. And again, it's just another idea because we like to be seen and we like to be known, and this is how we get to have those experiences.
What do you think stops people from really diving deep into that creativity, really letting themselves get lost in following their passions?
Okay, I mean, I can tell you exactly the places that people get stuck. The first place is the spark of impulse arrives into your life and it bumps into your limiting belief systems that were set up in your childhood. So you have a gas pedal and a brake pedal straight away, right? Because the brake pedal is really just your safety system doing its job. Thank you, safety system, for doing the job. This is awesome. I'm so glad you're here because I know I wouldn't be here without my safety system doing it. But it's running off old software that hasn't been updated, and it still thinks that there's a saber-toothed tiger that's going to attack you.
Yeah.
At the moment you move towards your goal, because when you were 3 years old and you moved towards this brilliant idea that you had, you got shut down by somebody or someone or something, and it remembers that. So it's trying to protect you from experiencing the pain of that again, right? So that's the first place. We've got this, okay, straight away, I call them the echoes from childhood. The next thing that happens is we get the idea. We've got to make an internal commitment. Now, many of us don't commit to an idea. We swallow the idea, we wait for the next one, we wait for the next one, then actually we haven't committed to anything. So that's a place we get stuck. Then that idea has to make a leap from the inner world to the outer world. And that's where we've spoken about the form density changing and it's slowing down. We try and see what's going to happen. We try and project out of our mind's eye, like, oh, how's this going to go? And what we do is we go into ambivalence and we go into recycling and re-guessing and recycling and re-guessing and more ambivalence, and we never make the leap. So that's a place people get stuck. There's another place then there's these people who get all the way into the world, dun, 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 and the first thing that happens every time an idea comes into the world, and my hypothesis is that everything that's new wobbles. And it's like a kid riding a bicycle, there's a wobble, it's like that. But what the kid does on the bicycle, and it's a place we get stuck, is we grab the brakes and we put our feet down. And now we're not cycling, right? We actually, to get through that wobble, we need to pedal faster, and we do that. Then all of a sudden it gets really boring, that frustration of the bread knife not working, and you go like, forget it, I won't have a sandwich, I'll just open a yogurt. There's a misunderstanding that the boredom means something's going wrong, and then you're talking about how compelling those inner ideas are when they're lively and whizzing around. When that's the biggest speed variance you can get. You've got absolute boredom where all you can do on your project is the next step. Now I work with wood. Oh no, I'm sanding. Oh my God, I'm still sanding. Oh, I'm still sanding. Maybe I just make something out. Right? Why do I want to work with wood? Words are so much easier than wood. I'll write something. It's like no. The boredom is part of it. We're going to stay with that, and then maybe we stay with it. And what happens is the feedback starts to come in. The world starts to say things to us because now they can see our idea, and they give us feedback, and the feedback comes in a frown or a stony silence and we panic, right? We just stop. No, put it back in the cupboard. Don't worry. The first book that I wrote, I sat on for 4 years. I didn't share it with anybody. I needed to do that because my nervous system and the certain injuries that I had, and the certain lack of support that I had, and the certain fear of feedback, that we've touched all of these things already, it meant that I couldn't take my beautiful creation and go, here, look what I've made, and and feel like the world was going to go, hooray, Andrew, you're amazing, which is what I needed. So I was like, nobody gets this. And so that interrupted my creativity. So those are kind of the first. I mean, there's more places. We started speaking about the moon cycle. All of that is the journey from new moon to full moon. That's only half the cycle that I've described so far, because the feedback and the receptivity, it's actually so important for us to take ourselves in what we created. My goodness, look what I did. Look, oh wow. I thought it should say, oh no, and then I remember when I scratched that out and I changed it to say this, and then we did that, and we did. I have to see myself in all of those steps to get to the harvest of my efforts, where I get to celebrate being me, not because this is perfect, but because I was in every step that took me to get this far. And then I'm like, oh wow, look what I did. Right? And only then have you actually completed the full creative cycle that gives you the nourishment of knowing yourself, seeing yourself, being seen by the world, being known, and having that personal victory that is so rightfully yours. And yes, you can get this out of making a sandwich. Oh, damn, that was a good sandwich. Or that wasn't my best sandwich, but hey, I'm the guy who made it. I'm the guy that bought the bread, and I'm the guy who put the stuff in the fridge, and I'm the guy who took the mustard out the cupboard. Nobody else did that. It was me. And now all of a sudden, I'm seeing me in my own life. And that gives me, again, ground and belonging and purpose and meaning, which are these huge things that we struggle with as humans. Yeah. They made a
Yeah,
bigger answer to your question than you
no.
thought we were going over it like this. You want to know where we get stuck? Well, I tell you, it's an ambush. There's a lot of places to get stuck, and it's just such a privilege for me to be able to help map this out for people to see and understand, so that we have compassion for ourselves, firstly, and so that we also then start to get less stuck, and be more thriving.
Yeah, yeah, and I think having compassion for yourself is like one of the biggest things. And really honoring yourself and the fact that like you said, that you were able to take something and bring it into reality as long as you follow the process and you keep going. I was listening to someone recently who was talking about when people create their first business and they go through the motions of creating the business and doing the thing, and then maybe nothing happens that first year, and so they, like you said, there's a moment where it's like stagnant or boring and you just can only do one step at a time. And he's like, well, that's not the point where you turn and say, oh well, this isn't working, let me just give
Mm-hmm.
up and focus on something else. No, that, like, you must keep going, because,
Mm-hmm.
well, it takes a long time right, to really create
Mm-hmm.
a successful business. On average takes about 5 years before you can really say to yourself, I'm making a good profit, this is something that, I people can recognize that I'm the point where I'm starting to be successful. But it's in the journey that a lot of people get stuck in a loop of creating, because it's like you get the initial spark, then you go through the motions to make it, but then you hit a low point where maybe it's moving slow, maybe you're not getting the ideas like you want or whatever. And so people pivot, and then we just go through this loop of getting the spark, doing a thing, not happening, let me turn, getting and so you never get the chance to see it be successful
Mm-hmm.
because you never follow through. So yeah, I think that's a very important part. I know that I experienced that when I wrote my first book. Um, it was like I did a thing, I wrote the book, and I put it out there, and it was like crickets, right? Nothing happened.
Crickets. Yeah.
And yeah, it was a hard, like, wow,
Ouch.
but yeah. But then I had to say to myself, okay, you actually did the thing, right? And there's something physical out there that you put
Mm,
out there. So
mm,
all you need to do is just look at yourself and say, wow, I made a book, and keep
mm,
going, right? Don't
mm.
stop. And yeah, but it was hard because it was like my first book. I put my heart and soul into it, and I'm like,
It's very hard.
nothing. But it taught me a lot. It taught me to be resilient. It taught me that the process was more for me than anything
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, it taught me to keep going.
It's interesting. It's again, it's worth knowing that the journey of a creative spark to create a book and get it to the point that you got it to is one cycle. The journey of marketing a book to the world is a completely different cycle. And so it's actually although the sparks are cousins, it's not the same spark,
Right.
right? And for many of us creatives, we actually don't have the other spark. We
Right.
are,
I
uh,
don't. I,
what have I got? I'm like, I've got the spark to write a book, and I wrote it, and it didn't sell, but I'm going to write another one.
yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, but can I find the spark to do the marketing, or can I find the person who has that? Because again, it's, other people have those, um, and can't do what we do, as creatives. So
Yeah, I found that, like you said, find people who can do what I can. And
yeah.
I definitely admit that I am not great at marketing. I do not even like social media. So, yeah, that's not my area. That's expertise. So
Mm,
put somebody else in that place.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's okay, everyone, to not have to do everything. That's one thing I had to learn. I cannot do everything. There is no way in the world that I could do everything and do it well. So I have to
Mm,
focus on what I can do well and let other people do what they do well.
right. Right. You're the conversationalist in the podcast, and somebody else can do the editing or whatever it is. It's like I was looking recently, and I feel like one of one of my biggest points of suffering at this season of life is that the gaps between my opportunities to be brilliant are too big. Right? I mean, that puts me into, it means that I'm spending too much time in my non-genius zone, in the tasks and in the things that I do, and um, like, damn it, I'm brilliant and I want to be brilliant, like, more often. And what does that look like for me? Whether I like getting to talk with you like this. This for me. I love this moment. Getting to close the doors and write on the next story. I love that moment. Um, Getting to social media you're talking about. I could stick pins in my eyeballs around social media,
Yeah.
but I've got the most magnificent team who I love working with, and I don't have to do it every day. I can do it once a month, and we can make some videos, and we can think deeply about the scripts, which I like doing, and then I'm behind the camera again, and the lights are on. So,
Yeah,
but I do think
that's
that we've all got to be spending more time in our brilliance.
you put that perfectly, and that's something that I just started recently learning. I want to say sometime last year, is really, I mean, like I said earlier, not trying to be an octopus, because I
Hmm.
don't have 8 arms. And so, but in that, like you said, when you're trying to do all of these things, you are not in your optimal place of brilliance because you're trying to be everywhere all at once. And honestly, we only have a capacity for the things that we have the capacity for. So in our instance, it's that creativity. It's that, writing or expressing our opinions in the way that we view the world in these different ways. But yeah, so organization and marketing and all of that is not my area. So that would drain me because I would be spending so much time trying to figure out these things that I would only have those little pockets, in between where I could just be like, oh, okay, that's all done. So now let me do this. And then, but in the creating, I'll be like, well, when I'm finished, then I gotta go and I gotta market this and I have to do this and do that. And so that would hinder that. So allowing ourselves to just exist in that and giving the reins to the people who actually enjoy doing those things, right? There are people who really love marketing and branding. And so,
Totally.
yeah, they can have
Yeah.
that. Um, so, what inspires you the most in life?
Hmm. What inspires me the most in life? Yeah, hearing inspire is drive and motivate. Um, the it's an interesting question for me today. I'm like, what is it? What is it that inspires me the most? It's been a heart. I have a heart for service, and that's certainly been a big part for me. Uh, Connection and creativity being my two big drivers. That I will move towards those at every possibility. I can't I can't not. It's just who I am, and uh, and so when I look around the world and I see what people play with their creativity and how people um, they're also very playful in how they create connection. And we go back to dance and the dance community. There, oh wow, they've got a way of creating connection. But so does the bridge club, and so does the baseball team, and um, these are things that I'm mesmerized and in a certain way interested in learning how to be the conductor of the orchestra in a way that creates connection. That to me is a lot like, hey, if I invite 20 friends over for a party, what is it that we're going to do beyond stand around the barbecue that will bridge and get us one layer deeper than this a veneer of masks that so often we're walking around in.
I love that. That's beautiful. And so, lastly, what would you say to someone who has this idea for whatever and they want to put it out there, but they're not really sure like where to even start? I mean, obviously you start by doing the thing, but
Mm,
they're not really
mm.
sure like what to do, where to start, if they're even capable of bringing their vision to reality.
Hmm. No, nobody's sure. Don't, don't wait to be sure to get started. Nobody has confidence before they do something new. They get confidence by doing something new and failing at it and and getting up again. And I mean, the first day you went snowboarding, you know, then you had to make it across to the chairlift after just working out how to put these things on your feet, and then you had to work out how to get off the chairlift, and then you were face first in the snow, and then and, this is it. There's no confidence in it. Don't wait to be sure. Um, just again, just do that. Just do that one thing. There's always one thing right in front of you that you can do. Just do that. Just do that one thing, and the next thing will reveal itself, and then you can just do that next thing. And we're back at writing the poem where we didn't know what the words were going to be. It's the same. We don't. The more you can be okay with not knowing, the more you can create. And so maybe there's this invitation to be curious and mesmerized, both in equal measure. It's like it's curious at yourself and curious what you might create, curious about how it might go, curious about what you might learn as it goes terribly, curious at how it becomes something completely different to what it is you thought you were going to be making.
That's always the most fun, right?
It's fun. It's amazing, and that's why they're mesmerizing. It's like, it's amazing. I look at this and go, oh my goodness, look what it became. And it's like, wow, that's so much better than I originally thought it was going to be. It's like grace arrived and the universe shaped my idea alongside me together, and it's so much better than I possibly thought it could be.
Oh, that was beautiful. Yes, I love that. And one last thing that you could leave everyone with, what would it be?
You have a perennial, ever-flowing wellspring that is already bubbling up inside of you. And it is profoundly healing to plug into that and access it. And I for one, want to see what you do with it. Because I'm so excited to see your uniqueness, so excited to see your essence, and what your hands do with this bubbling of a creative spark that comes through you. Go for it, go play.
Yes. And on that note, where does the universe take you next?
Well, there is I literally around the world, literally physically around the world for me. I'm currently in Maui, which is where home has been for the last 4 years. And there's a movement coming shortly to spend some more time in the north of Scotland, which is part of my heritage. My mama was Scottish. And so I know that that's happening. I know that there's a book coming. I know that my hands want to do more with wood, so I'll be following that. And then I know that that's the smallest tip of the iceberg of all the things I don't know, which is what's so exciting.
Yes, I love that. And how can everyone find you and find your works?
Yeah, so 2 places for that. Consciousstories.com is where all of the kids' book world is. And some of my deeper thinking about creativity and around healing and coaching work, that's on andrewnewman.me. And would love to hear from you. Always interested to know how our conversation has been in service to you and what it's helped out with. I love the curiosity that you've brought to this conversation. I'm so grateful for the places it goes, and again, it's been new. This is significantly different from many of the conversations that I have, which are like, tell me about this book. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. But I like this. I like the open expanse of this, and it, and the audience that you have and the curiosity that they're all bringing. This is rich and rewarding place to be hanging out.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are so happy to have you here. And everyone, this has been another awesome transmission. I hope that you've been inspired. I hope that you had a spark ignited. Um, and thank you so much, Andrew, for your time.
Mm, mm. And if you didn't have a spark ignite, go and write a 7-minute poem on not having a spark ignite.
Absolutely. And we want to hear it, okay? Leave it in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
comments.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you, LA.
Thank you. Until next time, guys.
Aloha.
Archive that. And remind me to invite them to a space brunch.
Adding to contact list, brunch-worthy beings.
Where to next, Arden?
The Sanctuary of Still Waters.